Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom. Nathan Drinkard, I'm Jay Wise. Thanks for spending some of your time with us. As you well know, our show is hosted on the Anchor app. We're also on all the other big podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, just to name a few. And also the video format of the show is up on our A Drink of Wisdom YouTube channel. Check us out. Like, listen, share, subscribe. We appreciate it all. Great to see you, Drink. What's going on, man?
Man, great to see you too, brother. Another Wednesday, another show, another day, another dollar. You know what it is. You know what time it is. It's the drink of wisdom. Look, we say what they don't. We see what they want. And here's the deal. Let me go ahead and lay it on you. Let's talk some sports, baby. Let's roll, baby.
And if they don't know about the see what they don't say what they want, or I knew I was gonna mess it up, but whatever. They know for sure after the MLB All Star Game and the Georgia voting and all the rest of it.
So we say what they don't for sure, sure.
If you didn't know, then you know now. Anyway, in episode 43, Baylor beats Gonzaga. Embiid remakes his MVP case, and we discuss a major trade between the Carolina Panthers and the New York Jets. We begin with the NCAA men's basketball tournament, that Final Four, which saw Gonzaga defeat UCLA on that last second just about half-court shot from Jalen Suggs. And the Baylor Bears defeated the Houston Cougars by a score of 78-59. And then Gonzaga and Baylor got together on Monday night. Big win for Baylor. They were in control pretty much the whole way. Jared Butler led the way with 22 points. Also big efforts from Masai Oteague and Davion Mitchell. Gonzaga just couldn't get it going. A lot of turnovers. They struggled on the glass. But in the end, well-deserved performance by Baylor and their coach, Scott Drew. So go ahead and tell us about it, Drink. What'd you make of the national semifinals as well as the Baylor victory on Monday night?
Well, semifinals, final, like the one game, Gonzaga and UCLA, that was the game.
Yeah.
Like, we know what Boston did with Houston. They went on and gave them no proverbial welcome mat treatment. Hey, we got somewhere to go. We got somewhere to be. Come on in, Cougars, and then they set them down just like you would do an actual Cougar. You know what I'm saying? If you know what I mean, wink, wink. But to the game that actually was a game, they caught our attention as fans, as the nation, as media, as everybody. UCLA versus Gonzaga. First of all, I want to say shouts out to UCLA, Mick Cronin. Fantastic job what he did with that program. We've been talking about this, since the tournament started, how UCLA was a first four team, made it to the final 14, and they earned it every way. They didn't win against some elite teams, so it wasn't like, okay, they caught a break in the tournament and they played a 15 seed and a 13 seed, and no, they played the best of the best. I don't need to go down the resume. Their resume it spoke for itself from game one, I might add, because they played Michigan State in game one. So just for what it's worth, and for anybody that say, well, Michigan State wasn't that good this year, Michigan State was the only team in the tournament that had beat three of the number one seeds that was in the tournament. So to say that it was just a pushover or whatever, you got to do some research before you say that, because you can't just look at stuff and think it is as it appears. They tell you that in the mirror. Sometimes stuff is closer than it appears. Just read the mirror. But let's talk about UCLA and Gonzaga, because before that game, I remember, myself saying that I thought Gonzaga was going to come in here and do what they do per se and put them to bed, similar to what Baylor been doing in their competition. And I think what we seen in that was we seen that UCLA, they was up for the task. Long story short, they was up for the task. They had length, they had shooting. I think UCLA in that one game opened up a lot of people's eyes, because up to that point, they had beat tough teams. It was kind of like, okay, cool. They slid past this team. They slid past this team. Now they're going against Gonzaga. The Bucks stopped here, but it really didn't. They played their tails off. And look, I hear that Jalen Suggs was an All-American in football just as well as basketball. They ain't got nothing to do with this. I just thought that I would mention. But listen, that shot, they make stadiums off of shots like that. They make statues off of shots like that. I should say, not stadiums. They make statues off of a shot like that. And I think his name will go down in the Gonzaga lore for quite some time. With that shot. Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I had tuned off the game for a second because I had to catch something else at Saturday night. You know, you got a lot going on in the sports world on Saturday night. I'm looking at something else. Something, I get a little thought in my head that said, "Bing, hey man, don't forget about the game turnover. It's about to go into overtime." At least I thought. And so I turn over. They're playing. I'm like, "Oh man, what a game! What a game! Hold on." Yo, they just let this dude just get his own rebound and lay it up. Oh, Gonzaga about to lose then. If they're going to get that effort on the last play, they're out of here. Lo and behold, old Jalen Suggs running up the side of the court, get him a nice little arc to it, and the rest is history. So, shout out to UCLA and Mick Cronin. I respect to the highest level what they did going from the first four to the final four and playing every damn minute that they played in the tournament. And then we get to the national championship. Here we go. So we got two heavyweights. And you know what? I owe Baylor an apology because I talked all this gravy, all these good, positive, inspirational, next level things about Gonzaga. Rightfully so, because, they do have 2 first-team All-AP All-Americans and then a second-team AP All-American. So I was talking from that standpoint, but maybe I should have been talking about Baylor because that was the team. If you actually look at the body of work, how both teams played, you can make an argument that Baylor been better than Gonzaga all year. Especially when you add in the layoffs that Baylor had. Baylor had 2 to 3 long layoffs this season. So I don't think a lot of people know that. That's why Baylor probably died off in conversation. Even though they was the number 1 seed, they kind of died off a little bit in number 1 overall seed conversations because they had so much gaps. I think one time they didn't play for like a month, 2 months, or something along that line. So does that make the team worse? No. But that does make us as, watchers, fans, it makes us forget about the teams or how good that team could be because we don't see them play as often. And I think that's what happened to Baylor. Baylor needed the tournament to remind people of who they were. We seen in the national championship, and I did say this on Saturday, that what Scott Drew is doing with this team, with the recruiting and the way he built this team and how dead this program was before he took it over, and I mean dead, folks, it probably was a battle between the football program and the basketball program, which one was the worst, because they both was like flatline at the same time. But he took over this program. He seems to have this program looking towards it being a powerhouse. So shouts out to Scott Drew on that. But I would say my biggest takeaway from this game is, can you give me a stat that Gonzaga won that's meaningful? A meaningful stat that Gonzaga did better than Baylor in this game. Because I'm looking, and it's hard for me to find one. Like, you could probably find a stat, but I mean like a meaningful one. Rebounds, assists, turnovers. You know point scored. I don't know, 3-point percentage. Like, it's very hard for me to see. I mean, the one stat that you did find one, by the way. Let me let everybody know he did throw one at me. Gonzaga did shoot a better free throw percentage. I mean, not free throw, a better field goal percentage. That they did. No knocking that. But they didn't beat Baylor in nothing else. And I mean nothing else. I'm fairly confident Baylor beat them to the warm-ups before the game, beat them to the warm-ups at halftime. Like, I don't know what it was that Gonzaga could have won other than that, but they didn't beat Baylor in anything else. So I'm not going to break down the game because to me, the score does not indicate how bad of a beatdown this game really was. This was a one-sided affair, folks. So for you Gonzaga fans, you don't come trying to sell no hoopla, whoop-de-whoop. No, this was what we call an ass kicking, and the foot is still in there somewhere. Yeah, your breath smelling like toenails, all that, because they put their foot in there, turned it sideways, and tried to pull it out just so you could feel it even more. So Baylor, listen, they did what they did, man. They the kings of college basketball. They rightfully deserved it. They was the best team in the nation. They deserve all the accolades that's going to come to them. We'll see how Scott Drew bring this program along more as it goes. But Gonzaga, let's make no mistakes, folks. Gonzaga's not going nowhere. Mark Few been doing this longer than a little bit. They're not going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Gonzaga going to come back. They're going to be better. But Gonzaga, to their credit, Gonzaga is a program similar to Baylor this year. They don't deal with a lot of one and dones. They deal more with 3-year kids, 4-year kids. So Gonzaga might take a year or so before, or they might bounce right back. But they're a developmental school, so they're gonna be back. I think that's not bury Gonzaga to the point of non-existent. But I do got a question for you before I pass it over to you. I heard this question and it was interesting, and I just I'm curious on your opinion. If Gonzaga had won this game and had a perfect season, would this have been considered the greatest college basketball team of all time, or at least one of the top 5 greatest college basketball teams of all time?
I think it would have to be. I think it would have to be almost, because I mean it's been since what, 1976, Larry Bird's Indiana State, whatever their mascot is, I don't know, but it's been a long time, and I gotta tell you, maybe that's where like some of our, well, I know I'm speaking for myself, some of my I think I might have got a tad bit emotional about Gonzaga, because some of the allure behind the Bulldogs from the West Coast is the perfect season. Like sometimes, like it's similar to almost when New England was 16-0 regular season, made it to the Super Bowl and ended up losing to the Giants. I like seeing history such as that. And it's a similar situation here with Gonzaga, having an undefeated season and having a chance to cap it off, almost the way Kentucky they hit the Final Four, 5 years ago maybe. Lost to Wisconsin, I believe it was, in the national semifinal.
That was that Frank Kaminsky, Wisconsin.
Frank Kaminsky, Sam Decker, all those fellas.
Right.
So that maybe that's where some of that comes in. But I would also say, we got I think you brought it up. Baylor missed a lot of games due to COVID, and one of the games they missed was a regular season matchup where these two teams were supposed to play. Right. Having that regular season game could have told us a lot, or at least showed us how these two teams match up, because I know I underrated a lot of things about Baylor in this matchup. But just to catch up on the semifinal games, right on the money. The Houston Baylor game wasn't much to talk about. I mean, Baylor was just. I think I ended up being correct in that one. Houston, we know their calling card's been defense all year. It served them well, but just not enough scoring. Baylor had the defense and the scoring, and they were just too much for them. That first half was something to behold. I mean, 45-20. I mean, just forget about it. You're not coming back from 25 in a college game at the half. And of course, we know the UCLA Gonzaga game. I mean, that was great to see, and we don't always see. Sometimes I feel like once you get to the Final Four, the last 3 games, you get some letdowns. Like you're hoping for a competitive game, and it doesn't always turn out that way. At least we got one competitive, one game it's going to be hard to forget that one, especially the way it ended. You get overtime, you get a close block charge at the end of the regulation. Drew Timme draws a charge, very close call. This guy, Johnny Juzang for UCLA, making a name for himself throughout the tournament. And the first 4 to the Final Four, Mick Cronin, can't say enough about UCLA. And they were, they proved a lot of people wrong, because I thought Gonzaga was going to take it to them and it was going to be pretty easy, and it wasn't. It was a fight the whole way. I think Gonzaga at one point, about midway through the second half, got up by like 7. I was like, ooh, they could be in trouble here. They might start running away, and then immediately UCLA hit a 3, and they was right back, within striking distance. So can't say enough about Mick Cronin and UCLA, and shout out to the Pac-12. They deserve a little bit more respect, especially out in the basketball world. But to the national championship game, I really felt like, from the outset, start to finish, Baylor's defensive intensity and their ball pressure really set the tone. It didn't help Gonzaga that Jalen Suggs picked up 2 quick fouls and had to sit out an extended stretch in the first half. I really felt like the ball pressure from Baylor, with guys like Davion Mitchell, Jared Butler, they were up in the grills of the Gonzaga ball handlers. And there were times where guys like Corey Kispert and Drew Timme didn't even look like they belonged on the floor. I mean, that's how serious it was. And that kind of set the stage. And then as time went along, the primary difference in the game was the glass. Baylor dominated the boards start to finish. I mean, this kid Marcus Vital, he deserves a lot of credit. I believe he had like 8 offensive rebounds by himself. Anytime Baylor got up a shot, there was rarely an uncontested rebound for Gonzaga. The Baylor front court was pounding the offensive glass the entire game. The second shots that they got were, Baylor was plus 16 for the game, 38-22, and they had 16 offensive rebounds. So they were, if you just take Baylor's offensive rebounds to Gonzaga's total rebounds, it was -6. That's how dominant they were. And that's one of those things I think really that maybe that first matchup could have told us, because it's easy to get caught up in the 3 All-Americans that Gonzaga has with Suggs, Timme, and Kispert, and we know Baylor's got Butler and Mitchell, outstanding players in their own right. But the front court of Baylor, I really thought was the difference in this game. And you talked about Gonzaga shooting a better percentage from the game. Well, that's an empty statistic when the other team gets up 18 more shots. So you're right. I think the box score it perfectly demonstrates how lopsided this game was. Gonzaga, they had a little momentum getting into at the end of the first half. They cut the lead from about 19 to 10.
10, yeah.
Yeah, but really in the second half, I felt like Gonzaga had a shot until about midway through the second half, and then Baylor, the 3-point line was another big edge. Gonzaga was 5 for 17, Baylor was 10 for 24. So you make double the threes and you win the rebounding edge to that degree. That's hard to overcome. And Scott Drew. Another last thing about Baylor. Scott Drew, they played a clip late in the game, with him on video, I believe when he took the job, saying, well, I came here to win. We're here, we're here to win. We're not here to just, make the NCAA tournament. We're here to win games in the tournament, blah, blah, blah. And I just we see this in so many different sports where a team or a program will bail on a coach so quickly. And I just want to commend Baylor for sticking with a guy. 17 years is a long time. Most coaches, they don't get half that long, if you don't produce results. It is Baylor, they haven't had a successful history by any means, but I do think the Baylor, athletic department, athletic director, they deserve credit for sticking with this guy. And Scott Drew deserves credit for how he's built this program. And Baylor's been successable, the past decade. They've been one of the better teams in the Big 12. And they finally get their one shining moment. Nothing but good things to say about Baylor. They earned it, and that was a dominant Final Four performance from the national semifinal to the national championship game on Monday night.